I'd like to talk about calcifications. A lot of people are getting stones of various forms. A lot of people are getting arthritis. Calcifications really in every way. What would you suggest that those people should do?
All right, so the question is, what causes stones? That's, I think, to get to the point. There's really two causes for stones. One cause is a pH imbalance, and the next cause is your body attempting to encapsulate parasites.
Well, yes, now that's very interesting. Do you know, I haven't heard that second answer of encapsulating parasites before. That's really interesting. Tell me more about that.
Well, for example, the reason why if a person has, say, Parkinson's or multiple sclerosis, they'll do x-rays, like an MRI of the brain, and they'll see these little white dots and spots, and those are the body's calcifications and encapsulations of the parasites, which cause this problem in the brain.
And the body's trying to encapsulate them to protect the brain, and or what's happening?
Right. This is why people will have those findings on MRI but not have any symptoms. It's because this is your body's attempt to cope.
Right. Okay. And so the answer once that's happened.
Well, the answer once that happens basically is cleansing. Is, to do enemas, have an organic diet, increase your nutrition, and take turpentine to clear that out. And that's one cause of calcifications. The other cause of calcifications is pH imbalance. So your body will do absolutely anything to maintain a blood pH of 7.35 to 7.4. It's a pretty narrow range. And what it does to maintain that pH, so say the pH is too acidic, is it goes to the bones and it takes out calcium or minerals, and it forms stones. And so if your pH is in general too high or too low, then your body is going to form stones. No matter how much calcium you take or how much anything you eat.
Yes. And magnesium as part of the answer?
Not necessarily. Again, everything depends on what your pH is. You have a pH such that adding magnesium would make the problem worse.
Yes.
So the way to get at it is to check your urine pH. And so your urine pH does not reflect your blood pH. The urine pH reflects the adjustments your body has had to make to maintain your blood pH. So the ideal urine pH is between 5 and 6. If your urine pH is below 5, then you're going to make stones. If it's above 7, you're going to make stones.
Right. So somebody's got stones now. How long do you think it might take before they haven't got any more?
Whereas there's two stages. One is haven't got any more stones, and the other one is have no more symptoms of stones. So to get rid of your stone symptoms, usually it only takes about 2 weeks. To dissolve the actual stone, it just really depends how big the stones are, how many stones you have,
And there are the people who do the liver and gallbladder flush, which I've never liked the sound of. Do you think that's unnecessary, going over the top?
Yeah, I do. I do think it's unnecessary. I used to think it was necessary, and many years ago, I used to actually recommend it and help people do it because it is kind of complicated. But now I realize it's not necessary. So what do we do instead of that? Is I have people take vitality capsules. Vitality capsules increase the bile flow. And then I'll have them put turpentine over their liver area, which literally dissolves the stones and the congestion in the liver. And so they can just then poop out the stones.
Right, very good. And, in the very first program we did a few years back, we talked about turpentine and how to use it. But I wonder now, it must be, 5 years later or something, whether you've perhaps revised any of your instructions for turpentine, or if people didn't hear the original one, whether you could perhaps just briefly run through what the protocol is, why they should do it, how long, and so on.
I have an updated report, which is available at vitalitycapsules.com. People can download it for free. And so I've updated the report. And what the report has done is it's removed the raw food diet as an option. It has made the whole Candida diet much, much easier to follow. And it's talked about more variations in the use of turpentine and how to apply it.
Right, very good. Is there any way to avoid the taste in that, I find it...
Not really. No. The only way to avoid the taste might be topical application, but you get different effects from topical application.
How effective is topical compared to internal?
It depends on what you're doing. So if you're doing stuff like, kidney and adrenal, then topical application is really good. And I would say superior to internal. And sometimes I'll recommend internal and topical together, keeping the total daily dose at 1 teaspoon or less. I am familiar with erectile dysfunction becoming just an ever larger issue. In my experience, it is easily fixed by putting the person on a diet, again, without processed foods. So the processed foods are clogging up the super, super small blood vessels that have to be quickly engorged or filled with blood in order for a man to achieve an erection. And so what's happening is these blood vessels are clogged with undigested processed food. So if a person is eating crackers or cheese or soy milk or rice milk or rice cakes or cheesecake or donuts, all these things cause erectile dysfunction. And so simply switching the person's diet to get rid of all their processed food, increasing their water intake. If the guy will do enemas, that expedites things, but it's not, not necessary because most guys I work with, they refuse to take enemas. So there you have that. But if they just change their diet, increase their water intake, and increase their walking, then boom, the erectile function totally clears up, usually in about 2 to 4 weeks. It's nice to not have to go buy a pill every time you want to have sex.
Well, that strikes me as a rather dangerous thing. I mean, presumably those sort of Viagra-type drugs have got some pretty nasty long-term effects. What have you found?
Yeah, so first of all, they're not that effective. They only work in, at best, 50% of men. So that's the first thing. The second thing is they do give you an erection, but they don't give you back that desire. And so that desire, that the interest and the excitement about sex is a different issue. But that lack of excitement comes from a clogged and congested liver, which is also caused by the processed foods. So if you take the natural route, then what you're going to restore to this man is you're going to restore his erections, but also you're going to restore his excitement and his desire and pleasure. So that's good.
Well, absolutely. And presumably the same thing would be true for women who've lost their sexual desire. Cleaning up their act is going to work for them as well.
Well, that would work. Women are a little more complicated than men. They need a lot. They need to clean up their act in terms of their diet. But by the time a woman has just totally lost her interest in sex, a lot of things have happened. So you don't have a simple circulation issue. So for women, it's the same thing. Get rid of the processed foods, clean things out. But a lot of times you need a little more, like maybe some red raspberry leaf tea, some cardamom, some vanilla. With the woman, you need more aphrodisiacs. You need to really get the emotional side going as well.
Yes, quite.
And then there may also be with women more of a partner issue as well. So if she feels, that she's not listened to, that she's not understood, that she's not cared for, then that can have a very negative impact on her sexual interest. So it's not as straightforward as it is with men. So men are much easier in my experience, to fix than women are.
One of the issues that's facing everybody, I mean, well, the couple of big issues, I mean, stress, obviously, but one I'm particularly thinking of is a lack of happiness. I mean, a lot of people...
Yes, exactly, a lack of happiness.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that's partially because so few people have found their purpose in life.
What did you say? So many people, or so few people do what?
Haven't found their purpose in life.
Okay. That's possible. However, I think that people are naturally born happy, and happiness is actually, I think, people's natural state.
I completely agree.
So, how do you help them achieve this natural state of happiness? And the problem is twofold. One, people are conditioned to not be happy until something happens. In other words, I can't be happy until I earn a certain amount of money. I can't be happy until I have a certain job. I can't be happy until I live at a certain address. I can't be happy until. And so people are actually placing an incredible large number of conditions on their own happiness. And they're saying, wait, I can't be happy because this hasn't happened, because that hasn't happened. And so that is a huge, huge issue. So one is that people are placing conditions on their happiness. And people even in the American culture, if you're just happy for no good reason, you're stupid, you're simple. And that's not right. And so because of this, people feel they have to appear unhappy just so people think that they're sensible people. That's one. The next thing is, in America, I can't speak for the UK, is this incredible blaring propaganda machine that puts out nothing but bad news. Even though a person's life might be perfectly happy and everything's going fine, they have enough food, they have a wonderful place to live, maybe they have a great partner, healthy children, but they're unhappy. Why? Well, because the propaganda network tells them so. And one big strategy of advertisers is to create unhappiness and then give the hapless dupe the impression that buying their product will restore happiness. So, hey, you're not happy. But when you buy my product, that's going to make you happy. And so you have people chasing one purchase after another, hoping to find happiness when they're actually running from happiness. They already have it. They were born with it. I recognized this when I fled the United States and came to Panama. So I fled the United States and came to Panama. And the only word I knew in Spanish was hola. That was my full vocabulary. And the good news was I did not understand any of the propaganda. They would blare messages in the streets about this and that. There were signs saying your last chance, buy it now. There were signs that you had to do something right now to get salvation and go to heaven. I wasn't able to read any of it. And I didn't listen to the radio because I couldn't understand Spanish, or the TV. And I remember walking down the street one day, it was a sunny day, and I said, oh my God, I am so happy. And for the life of me, I couldn't figure out why, but I was just happy. I'm like, this is amazing. And so if people would simply take the courage to turn off all of their radio, no news of any kind, even the Nature Channel. If you listen to the Nature Channel, it tells you about how all of our resources are about to evaporate and how we're all going to drop dead and die because the topsoil's gone, or the Africanized bees, or some other excuse. There's a reason for it. But anyway, it's all gloom and doom. So what I would say to people is stop ingesting any and all news and just look around at your life, and you'll see so much stuff to appreciate. And you'll be happy.
Well, absolutely. You said something extraordinary, actually. You were saying that in America, if you're happy, people equate that with being stupid or simple. I'd never heard that before, and that's really worrying. So if you went down the street smiling, they'd think you're weird.
No, they think you're crazy. They would lock you up and give you some drugs to help you out.
Wow.
In fact, they have this psychiatric manual, and they diagnose people as being excessively happy. That's now an illness.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
We were mentioning stress as well. Are there any specific things that we haven't mentioned already, regarding changing the diet and so on, that would help reduce stress that you could particularly recommend?
How to reduce stress?
Yeah.
Oh, I think it's so simple. Make a list of everything in your life that you like, whatever it is. this is stuff that's already in your life that you like. Make a list of it. Make a list of everything in your life that you don't like. And just spend more time doing things that you like and less time in the presence of or around or doing the things you don't like. And that's a very simple way to relieve stress.
Yes, I had those words actually up on the wall of one of the rooms in my house, which seems sort of like, yeah, exactly. Okay.
Most people, they don't feel free to stop doing things they don't like. And these may be things other people have imposed upon them. Maybe it's a certain article of clothing that they wear, even though they don't like it. It's just as simple as things. And you need to just take a look at your life, make up your mind, you know what? I am not going to do things that I don't like, things that make me uncomfortable in any way, physically, emotionally, or mentally. And you will find your stress level getting very, very low. Like my stress level is very low.
The only thing that stresses me out is lack of money, I think. Everything else I can cope with.
Even lack of money. You can say, okay, fine, how much money do I actually have? How much do I really have? And then you can say, okay, where in the world can I live on that amount of money? I mean, one of my big stressors when I left the United States was I didn't have any money. I was on 2 do not employ lists. I was on the terrorist list. I couldn't work. I couldn't do anything. Have any money. And I couldn't even afford to live in my house at a cost of, I think to live in my house it would have cost me at least $1,000 a month. But when I moved here to Panama, I was able to rent a place for $90 a month. And that totally relieved my stress. And that gave me time to stop and think about, okay, how can I earn money? All right, work on the internet and do one thing after another to try and figure out what would work. And then finally reached the point where, hey, it worked. I have a friend. Recently, he had a tragedy in his life where he lost everything pretty much. And he decided, okay, I am going to find somebody I can help and help them. And I'm going to keep doing that, and the money will show up. And that has worked for him.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense to me.
Ah.
So, while I want to keep things incredibly optimistic in these shows, I just wanted to give a couple of warnings, perhaps about the medical profession. Some people, for instance, have got an organ donor card. Perhaps you might like to explain why people might not want to do that.
Yeah, so we in America think that we're very civilized and that a lot of awful things don't happen, but that's just not true. So in the organ donor arena, doctors have been agitating to redefine death so they can take organs from people who still have a heartbeat and even who are still breathing. Because the best organs are those taken from people who are alive. So if you have a cadaver, someone who's died of, we'll say, natural causes, and you take that particular organ, that's going to be an organ that's deteriorated, kind of like rotten meat, basically, and it's going to have less of a chance of survival. And so we frown upon countries like China, where they say maybe political dissidents are having their organs forcefully taken from them. But things are not so much different in the United States. So if you have, let's say you're in a car accident, you've got your driver's license, you've checked in the back, yes, I'm going to be an organ donor, you could be an offender bender, and before you know it, you're under anesthesia getting your organs yanked out. Because everyone knows you were in a car accident, right? They just tell your family, oh, he died, we're so sorry. And there have been many stories of people who get the body back for the funeral only to find there's been surgery done and organs extracted. Missing, in fact, all of them missing. And this is a common occurrence. And when you sign your donor card, you're basically making yourself a target. If a human being, let's say a live, living person, is snatched off the street, and let's say every organ they own is transplanted, including their cornea and their skin and their pancreas and their kidneys and liver, everything transplanted, it creates $11.3 million of economic activity, call it profit, in the medical industry. And so when you sign your organ donor card, you're creating a moral hazard. You are basically creating a situation where people have a moral temptation to do something very immoral. And so I would recommend anyone and everyone to absolutely do not sign your organ donor card, because it decreases your chances of ever getting out of the hospital alive.
So, obviously the hospital is making presumably the lion's share of the money. What about private doctors? I mean, who is getting the money?
Well, the nice thing is money is spread around very evenly between the hospitals, the pharmaceutical companies, and the doctors doing the transplant. And so because the money is spread around so evenly, everyone's got an incentive to kill you. The doctor, the hospital, and of course the drug companies. And, as with any system, no matter how good or bad, the power of the system is that everyone in the system has an incentive to reach towards the desired outcome, which in the case of organ donor is to extract your organ and put it in a recipient. Now, a lot of people might say, well, Dr. Daniels, I'm really sympathetic towards all these people who need organs, and, a lot of them are on these lists and they could die. Not so fast. Most people who are on the organ transplant list, if they had some lifestyle changes, they could get off that organ transplant list. They don't need those organs. The next thing, let's talk about the other half. The other half of people on that list are there because of medical intervention, and they wouldn't be there if they just said, no, thank you. So this whole market for organs is pretty much contrived. The number one reason for liver transplant is the person took Tylenol or acetaminophen or Panadol. I don't know what it's called in your country. So you take an organ transplant and you can trace it back to a pharmaceutical ingestion, or the person just needs a lifestyle change and they can be off the list. So don't worry that someone needs your organs, that someone needs you to be killed against your will and have your organs forcefully extracted so that they can live. There is no greater good to come of you being victimized and your organs stolen.
So we're in the operating room. There are all the nurses and everybody working there. How many people in that room are, if any, are aware of the reality of the situation? I mean, presumably the person is not necessarily anesthetized when the organs are removed.
They do give them a sedative. There was a scandal, and there's an actual case uncovered in Syracuse, New York, where someone came to the emergency room with an overdose of some pills. And they identified her as a good donor. And what they did was they gave her more sedatives to put her further under. And I don't know what happened. Someone must have got the dose wrong. And she started moving her toes. And of course, they don't give them any kind of general anesthesia. What's the point, right? So the doctor was getting ready to make his cut, and she opened her eyes. And he decided at that point that he really couldn't go forward with the surgery because the nurses saw this person open their eyes. There's just too many witnesses. So they called off the surgery, told the family, well, she isn't really dead. Here, take her back. But they lied to the family and said the person was dead. The doctor wrote the order to give her an extra anesthetic, which, of course, if she was truly dead, would be totally unnecessary, right? Yeah. So this goes on quite a bit. And this doesn't even count the people who are knocked in the head on the street, the streets of New York, and had their organs removed. There's just so much of this organ snatching going on. And your average person going through their day is totally oblivious to this. But the best way to not be victimized is to not encounter the medical system. Because once you get a blood test done of any kind, then that makes you a target. Why? Because most organs are matched based on blood type. And if you have the right blood type, then literally they can send someone out to go get you, right? Because if you go to a lab to get a blood test, what do they have? They have your name, they have your address, they have your phone number. And now the blood sample, they got your blood type. There was a scandal in the Cayman Islands many years ago where a doctor, he operated general practice, and he would do routine blood tests on people. And if someone had the right blood type, he would basically give their address and name to a company that would then apprehend them, snatch their organs, and sell them for transplant. So you just don't know the depth of what's going on around you. There are a lot of agreements, especially in healthcare, that the patient is not a party to and has no knowledge of. And none of these agreements are for the benefit of the patient. Even as a simple family practice doctor practicing medicine in Syracuse, New York, in the United States, insurance companies would ask me to sign agreements. And part of the agreement was to promise to never reveal to the patient what was in the agreement, because obviously they were making promises to the patient and then making me sign an agreement refusing to fulfill those promises. And then telling the patient, oh, that bad doctor. And so this is the same thing that's going on whenever you go to the hospital. The hospital has protocols in place for its own profitability that may actually be very damaging to your health. Your doctor has signed agreements with insurance companies. He has signed agreements with the government. He has signed agreements with the hospital. And all these agreements you are not privy to, you have no knowledge of. And the contents of these agreements are not in your best interest. If they were, they would let you know. These agreements wouldn't be secret.
And the Freedom of Information Act can't be invoked to get hold of this information?
No, you can't. No, because the Freedom of Information Act has to do with government agreements. You know, if I have a contract between you and me, who has the right to inquire or demand to see that contract?
But it's fraud. Surely the insurance companies are committing fraud there.
Why would it be fraud? I don't see where it would be fraud.
If they're giving a promise to their customer, yet ensuring that promise can't be fulfilled by a private secret agreement, that's still fraud, surely.
I mean, it's on the it's kind of on the edge. I mean, what they're saying is, if this promise is fulfilled, then we would pay for it. That's what they're saying.
Okay, so the doctor who stopped the operation you were mentioning about, he would have got a personal cut from all those millions, would he?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Everyone got a cut from the millions. Now, the point here, though, obviously the nurse got paid overtime to stay, to be present at the surgery and help attend it. And you see how insidious this is, everyone's little cut? I mean, no one's got to demand, no one's got to say, give me my cut for murdering that patient. No. It's all built into the system. It's all nice and smooth. The other question is, when this happened, who was prosecuted? Was the doctor prosecuted? Was he investigated? Was his license restricted in any way? What about the hospital? Did the government have any sanctions against the hospital? Maybe restrict their Medicare or Medicaid funding? What do you think?
Well, presumably not. Presumably nobody got prosecuted. They just got swept.
No, exactly. No prosecution, no investigation. They would not even reveal the name of that doctor. That was sealed.
How would they have paid the doctor?
How would they have paid him?
He's in it somehow. Would it just be overtime?
So the patient, he's basically killing the patient. He has many ways to get paid. First, he can get paid for just doing surgery, right? Just send the bill to the insurance company.
Yeah.
That's one way. But the organ procurement company pays him for extracting and removing the organ. So it's an organ procurement company. Literally, as soon as he rolled that lady into the operating room, there was a plane that took off from an airport to come get that organ and landed in a helipad right on top of the hospital. I mean, that's how just dialed in this stuff is. And so we are told, oh, yeah, the heliport on the top of the hospital, that heliport is to evacuate trauma victims, to bring them in and blah. No, it's not. Trauma is a money loser. You don't build a helipad for trauma. You build a helipad to ferry those organs back and forth.
And how much would the doctor have actually got in dollars?
To extract the organ, I'm not sure. To transplant the organ, it can be, $50,000 to $100,000, and to extract maybe $10,000. But $10,000 for 30 minutes work, hey, not bad. So everybody along the way, all the palms are greased.
Wow, incredible. And, okay, well, let's go back to a slightly more happy subject. You mentioned adrenals earlier on. Clearly, a lot of people have got adrenal stress. How would somebody work out whether what they're feeling is adrenal stress, and if so, what should they do?
So what's the cause of the adrenal stress? Again, worrying about all this nonsense propaganda on the news, the newspapers, and the radio, turn it off. Don't even think about it. If it was really important, one of your friends will tell you, your relatives will tell you, or you'll see it with your own eyes. So you don't need to worry about this imaginary stuff like Ebola or AIDS or whatever that doesn't exist. Okay. So that's one thing. You must control your exposure to propaganda, because this propaganda is written with such intense care and attention to emotional, biological triggers in humans that you can't protect yourself against it once you're exposed to it. It's just not possible. So that's number one. Don't expose yourself. But the next thing is your diet. Your adrenals totally depend upon cholesterol, and how many people are trying to keep their cholesterol low? How many people are trying to keep their cholesterol in a normal range? Man, let that cholesterol soar. Feed those adrenal glands. And you're not going to get adrenal fatigue.
And your favorite ways to increase cholesterol?
Liver. That's a good one.
And
eat liver. Go look it up on the internet. They'll tell you, don't eat liver. Don't eat liver. It's got cholesterol. Don't eat liver. Liver has got so much nutrition in it. It is literally nature's vitamin pill.
If you don't
Nothing else. No other food has as much B vitamins, minerals, vitamin A, vitamin D. So much nutrition in liver.
A couple of questions. One, if you do eat liver, how much do you need to get the benefit? And then if you don't like liver, what do you do?
If you do eat liver, I used to say 4 ounces, but that's not enough. Between 4 to 8 ounces, and I tell people to eat that every day at midday. It's noon. And what's going to happen the first time you eat it is you're going to wake right up and be like, whoa, I've got energy, which is nice. And then the next day you're going to eat it, and your energy is going to increase even more. And the next day, even more. And at some point, it's going to level out. You're going to eat it, and you're not going to notice any increase in energy. At that point, that's it. You're done. No more liver needed. And you don't need to eat it again until your energy declines. And some people need to eat liver once a month. Others need to eat it twice a year. But you just find your own level.
Oh, that's very interesting. Okay. Mm-hmm. And any particular animal's liver that you'd favor or disfavor?
Yes, calf liver, CALF. That means a baby cow. If it's an adult cow, the liver will not help you because it has too many chemicals and poisons in it from the life of the animal. So it needs to be a young cow, known as a calf, CALF.
What about chicken livers? Assuming that let's say the real chickens fed real food, is chicken liver any good?
I don't know. I don't have the experience with it. I have tried duck liver. That would be the pâté foie gras. That is a little helpful, but the best, in my opinion, is the calf liver.
And how would you prepare the calf liver? It's not something I've really ever... They forced me to eat it at school, and as a result of being forced to eat it every week at school, I just couldn't bear it. But how would you prepare it?
Well, it's a classical recipe. It's classic. It's simply salt, pepper, onions, and liver. Period. Done. End of discussion. That's it. And you just put the bed of onions in a pan, sprinkle salt and pepper on it, put the liver on top, put the top on it, medium heat for 10 or 15 minutes, and you're done.
Right, okay. And for the veggies amongst us who wouldn't eat liver, what then?
Sorry, you're out of luck. That's all I can say. Good luck with that. So I was vegan for 27 years, and I discovered this when I became so exhausted and tired, I just could not get out of bed. I literally could not sit up to even talk to you for as long as we're talking now. And so I said, wait a minute, something's wrong. Something is wrong. And I thought, and I said, well, if diet can cure and diet can cause illness, then I must have something wrong with my diet. Of course, I was vegan, no dairy and no meat. I wonder what it could be that's missing. And so I thought and thought and thought. I said, oh my God, could it be meat? Could it be that after 27 years I need meat of some kind? And so I said, okay, let me try chicken. So I ate a piece of chicken and nothing. I was still exhausted. Then I thought back to my childhood. I said, well, what meats did my mother give me? Because as a child, I had incredible energy. I said, I know, liver. I ate a piece of liver and it was just like day and night. I jumped up out of bed. I had all this energy. I could actually work. I could sit up in a chair and work at the computer. I could get dressed. I have all kinds of things I could do. So